The Early Weigh-In podcast is back at the Meta Apex as well this week for UFC Vegas 115. Banger main event, Renato Moicano taking on Chris Duncan. Real solid chance, no judges needed for this one here. Man, excited to talk our favorite spots. I was always going to recap. Had a very good night for myself, man. 3-0 at UFC Seattle for me. Another dog north of plus 200. I hit the dog, the parlay piece, and the best bet that we gave out on the podcast. Finish up 5 units. That's 2 back-to-back nice weeks for me, man. Looking to keep it rolling. I know both of us finished up in the green. I know you talk about how you happen to have some units left on the table, and then even the ones that you made came with that unnecessary sweat, man. So toss it over to you. How'd you finish up? We'll jump into this main event.
Yeah, so I was on the Alexa Grasso side, but I waited a little bit too long to put that play in, so I did not get it tracked, but that's okay. I'm happy to see my girl finally get back into the win column. The bet that I did place was a 2-unit one on Tyrell Fortune. I bitched a lot at the TV screen after decisions are read, but to see one actually get changed in the moment, I was very happy to be on that side. He was the rightful winner. And then ended up the night plus 1.54 units. So hopefully both of us can keep the ball rolling. I like when we're both giving out recaps where we're both in the green.
Absolutely.
We move on to the main event this week where we have Chris Duncan taking on Renato Moicano at 155 pounds. Chris Duncan opened the week at minus 200 and is slowly getting worse odds. We're seeing minus 150s right now. A lot of people on the Renato Moicano side, and honestly, I understand why. Renato Moicano, huge grappling advantage here. And I think just looking at Chris Duncan's past performances, he gets hit a lot. And even though he does come with this insane pressure, the hitability of him, because he doesn't move his head off the center line, really allows for people with a huge grappling upside like Moicano to get a good shot in on him and then really make him pay. And we saw that in fights past. I'm blanking on Manuel Torres.
Yeah.
Him being able to club and sub Chris Duncan. I think that people are kind of looking at Renato Moicano and asking why he couldn't do the same. That being said, I'm still not sure if I want to bet Moicano. Moicano in the past, it does seem like he might not be the most durable of fighters, and Chris Duncan just is going to have more power. I think he's in his prime more so than Renato Moicano. I think he has a little bit better cardio, the momentum coming into this fight career-wise.
Right.
And then the footwork on top of it. I think Moicano, he really moves back and forth on a straight line, and Chris Duncan can make him pay. I just think that that'll be a progressive damage over the course of the fight that will finally make Renato Moicano melt. I'm kind of predicting like a late 4th, 5th round finish for Chris Duncan. Even though this line is getting into a more playable range in the minus 150s, I'm still having a tough time laying juice on somebody who gets rocked every single fight. So probably a pass for me, but Chris Duncan will be the pick for this main event.
Not only rocked every fight, but we're talking about a guy who's coming in as a huge underdog to Mateusz Rebecki, coming in as a huge underdog to other guys as well. And now you're having to play juice on him, in his biggest test to date probably. But should be a good one, man. I was wondering how time went on the mat with these guys, seeing that they're both from American Top Team. And I saw an interview on Media Week talking about where Chris Duncan was openly saying, Moicano was getting the best of him earlier in their career on the mat. And wondering if that's influenced the betting line something. But it's kind of, the advantage I would think Moicano would have too. Biggest thing is, you kind of talked about not wanting to bet Moicano is just the timing of his career. He's post UFC title shot. This is his 2nd weight class, but honestly, looking back at the resume, it's elite at 145 and 155. It's an elite resume. And if he loses to Chris Duncan on Saturday, it's definitely, I don't want to say the worst loss on his career, but name wise, it would definitely be the worst loss of his career. I'm worried about him mixing it up on the feet with Chris just because, I know Chris gets hurt, but when you look at Moicano, man, he doesn't have that much firepower. His knockouts are the ground and pound over Jalen Turner and the doctor stoppage over Benoit Saint Denis. So I don't know how much danger he really presents on the feet. I think the big power advantage comes in Chris's favor. Almost kind of think, I don't want to say durability, but I kind of think I might lean Chris in the durability, man. Like the Charlie Campbell, the Terrence McKinney, like you had to put him out. Like you got to put him away or he's going to be there. But biggest question mark for me is if this fight hits the mat, how's it going to play out? Moicano's an ace on the mat. We've seen the Manuel Torres fight play out. You also got Chris, who loves a guillotine, and is that just going to put you on your back against Moicano? That's a little bit tricky as well. So, honestly, man, the money line side, it is dog or pass, but my pick, I think, is Duncan via stoppage. Just the current form, the motivation. I do see him wearing on down the stretch, but I think I'd look at some type of violence, honestly, dude, just because when I was looking at their fights, 7 of the last 9 haven't even seen a third round. And then one of those that do is his absolute war with Rebecca that I don't think Moicano survived. So I kind of thought this might even be a 1.5, not lined at 2.5. I wrote this when it was -130. It's still -140. I honestly think I'd look at some type of violence before I was on either side here. But good fight. Duncan via stoppage, I think, is kind of how my gut's going. Co-main event, far less exciting. Verna Jandiroba versus Tabitha Ricci. Look, at the end of the day, it probably is a close fight. You got a fight that's going the distance probably 85 to 90% of the time. And I think similar to Moicano, you got a person in Verna Jandiroba has just reached her peak, and you could see her decline at any time. Where's the motivation? She's 37, 38 years old. She's never been the fastest. She's never had good cardio. And when I was looking back through that resume, dude, Marina Rodriguez, Amanda Lemos, John Jianan, like those are all girls who have trouble staying upright and consistently struggle with grapplers. And I think that's just a different matchup than she has right here. I think Tabitha Ricci has the grappling, the short stature, the strength to be able to kind of keep this up. I think she's a little bit better fighter in a lot of areas. I think round 3 favors her. So I'll touch on Tabitha Ricci here shortly. But yeah, Tabitha Ricci is the pick in the co-main.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Verna Jandiroba, 6 years older, actually 7 years older, kind of one-dimensional. And I just think matchup-wise, this isn't the greatest one that she's had. Plus, you got to ask where the motivation's coming in. She understands that she's not going to beat Mackenzie Dern. She's probably not going to beat Wei Lee, anybody else who would be the top-of-the-line girls. And I think Tabitha Ricci still has those questions to be answered, even though I don't think that she will. I do think that she might still have the idea that she'll be touching gold one day.
Yeah.
And to, round out what you were saying about Ricci, I think it can all be boiled down to athleticism. She just has a huge athletic ability advantage here. I think we're going to see it when they're actually in the octagon and moving. On top of that, I think Ricci, for cardio-wise, we haven't really seen her take a step back in any fight. I do think that she has a significant boxing edge. So where these girls might neutralize each other on the mat, I do think that there's a huge edge in the striking for Tabitha Ricci, which is why I'm kind of surprised to see her as an underdog and continuing to climb. I think people are kind of set on the fact that Jandiroba just fought for a title. Mm-hmm. And the fact that she's been fighting these higher echelon girls for a longer time, that's kind of, making people think that she is a massive step up for Ricci, which she is. But I think that this is coming at a good time in Tabitha Ricci's career. After seeing her get up of a few takedowns from Amanda Hebos, I do think that she's going to at least be able to find her feet if she does get taken down. And then in those times where it's on the feet, I think that she'll walk away with this fight. I do expect this to go to decision, and I do expect Tabitha to pretty clearly win 2 of those rounds. And I know if the UFC has any say in who comes out as the victor here, they're going to be pushing for Tabitha Ricci because she can put some eyes on the television. Yeah. Moving on to my fight of the night, I'm going with Rafeal Estevam taking on Ethyn Ewing. No favors given to Ethyn Ewing, man. Combined record for his opponents in his first 2 UFC fights is 24-0. That's a tall task for anybody. He came in short notice, up a weight class against Malcolm Wellmaker, and really looked good. I saw a post on Twitter just a second ago where it was talking about how big Ethyn Ewing's head is for his body, and I couldn't agree more. It looks big in the picture. Upon rewatching the fight with him and Malcolm Wellmaker, he does have a massive head, and he can take a lot of damage. But the way that he's able to stay inside the pocket after throwing his first 2 punches and just continue to stay in the face of his opponents really catches them off guard and eventually wears them down over the course of 3 rounds. Rafeal Estevam, a former flyweight, relied on being that big body, missed weight quite a few times, was able to get most of his opponents to the ground up to 10, 15 times in a fight. And I think that it will help him not having to cut to 125 to be able to continue to get those takedowns. But at the same time, I think that he's going to be having to work a whole lot harder trying to hold down bigger fighters. Yeah. So I think for me, it's the pick is going to be Ethyn Ewing, but I'm skeptical because I do think that we're getting a little bit of recency bias considering he just came in with his debut and upsetting someone. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions on the Rafeal Estevam side, and I think the moments will be won by Ethyn Ewing. I won't be betting him, though, and that's strictly because I'm kind of waiting for a live line, because as much as Estevam has shown that he can be dominant at 125 pounds, I think that he could do that for at least the first round in this fight. And I think we're going to be getting a much better number on Ethyn Ewing. And then come that second and third round, that's really where he's going to start to pick up the pace. And if we see Estevam really start to slow down, Ewing's picking up, so maybe a late finish or something. But I do think that it's going to be a very close fight. The line proves it, and that's why I chose it for my fight of the night.
Super good one, man. See, like you were just talking about at the end, that's kind of how I see it. You got a guy who is real front-loaded and then kind of dies down versus a guy who kind of builds into a fight. So I think down the stretch, live bet, Ethyn Ewing's kind of the spot.
Well, and it's not even that like Ethyn Ewing builds into a fight like Charles Johnson does. Ethyn Ewing's on your ass from the bell, but his fight style isn't effective until the later rounds, and it takes him having all that damage that I don't think Rafeal Estevam is going to be able to like capitalize on other than getting him to the mat. And so I think as long as Ethyn can get back to his feet, we'll be good. But I have seen Ethyn in a couple of spots on the regional scene where I wasn't impressed with his get-up game, which is why I think that first round's pretty much guaranteed to go with Rafeal Estevam.
I agree, man. Fight of the night for me, honestly, there's not that many really good fights this week like there was last week. But I think Robert Ruchala versus Jose Delano is going to be a banger. I like both of the guys. I did take a shot on Ruchala in his debut and honestly had a lot more success against William Gomes than most do. Could have arguably stolen the fight. And then on the Jose Delano side, just one of the most impressive Dana White Contender Series performances in a minute. I bet the under there, kind of got burnt, but he just beat dude from pillar to post. Arguably could have been stopped. Delano to me, I really don't want to call him a prospect, but he's 20 pro fights. He's like 30 years old, but I think he's a better prospect. He's priced like it as well. His only loss in the last decades to Gabriel Santos, which is a very talented, very well-known UFC fighter. His striking, so crisp, man. It's so nice. He has great eyes in the pocket, knees up the middle, the ground game, the cardio. It all looks good, man. I think the ceiling's super high for this Jose Delano. And then Ruchala, just a tough Polish guy coming out of the KSW scene. He's held belts. He's been 5 rounds, tons of amateur experience. He's only 27 years old. So, I still think he's going to be improving. My issue with him is, I think he has to get the fight to the mat, honestly, man. I don't think he's going to have much success if this fight's played out at range at all. And Delano's really not shown me that, like a big worry, man. So I kind of feel like Ruchala is going to struggle to get the fight down. And if he does, I think that's where Delano's going to shine. But if he does get the fight to the mat, I think the line's going to look completely off because Ruchala looks to advance position. He looks to do damage. It's a good fight, man. I think both guys have an area of the fight they much prefer to keep it in. I think both of them coming in here with a good game plan. I have no plans of betting this fight. I side with Delano, but I think just 2 solid prospects, tons of experience, probably goes to decision. I just expect it to be a really good fight, man. Fought at a high pace. And what you got for your underdog?
So for my underdog, tough finding one, to be honest with you. But if I'm having to choose one and we're not double dipping on the underdog, then I'm going to go with the Brazilian Melissa Gatto. I think she's got a 4-year age difference. She's a little bit younger than her opponent, Diana Barbosa. I think that Gatto, the striking is pretty close, but I think that Gatto has more weapons on the feet. I think that she has a really good teep kick that could really wear on the cardio of Barbosa, who we've seen slow down in the past. And then even if Gato does get put on her back, I think she has really good jiu-jitsu off of her back and could make Barbosa pay if she's not careful. On top of all that, I do think that Gato has more power than Barbosa, which ultimately I think will swing, the decision into her favor. Things that she has to watch out for, though, is Barbosa. She does have a judo background. If she is trying to get to the clinch, which I imagine that she will, Gato needs to keep the distance strikes and then just do everything she can to avoid staying on bottom for too long. Barbosa, I do think that, she should have won her last fight. So if she had won that fight, I think we get a better price tag on Melissa Gato than we are right now. But I still think that there's some value in this coin flip fight, just her being the dog, which is why I'm making her my dog of the week. Not even sure if I'm going to be placing that bet, but as far as dogs go this week, that's what I'm looking at.
Looking to keep the ball rolling with my underdogs, man. I kind of hinted to it in the co-main, but I got Tabitha Ricci. She's tracked at plus 100, which honestly, opening it and being minus 115 earlier in the week, I was happy with plus money. I didn't think it would continue to climb. So if I can get a better number, in a day or two, I have no problem double dipping there and going back to the well with another half unit or a unit. But like you said, man, much younger girl, the one still gunning for that title shot, the one dating Callum Walsh, who has that relationship with UFC and the boxing. She's not the 37-year-old coming off the title loss. I think Tabitha 100% has the better cardio, the better striking, and is so much faster than Bernal on the feet. And I think she has the skills to keep this upright. And, if she can keep this upright, she might look like a favorite here, man. So, yeah, at plus money, Tabitha Ricci is clearly the side for me, and I expect her to take full control of this fight down the stretch.
I like it. For my parlay piece of the night, I'm going Bakoev inside the distance. Tresean Gore, especially in his last fight, showed that he can really take a beating. I don't think he has another one of those in him, though. And I think Bakoev is ready to come out here and kind of prove that he belongs. It's not my favorite spot on the card, but I do think that you're getting an insane value at minus 145 all the way up to minus 200 for somebody who should have a clear advantage and is sitting at minus 700 in some spots. Yeah. So give me Bakoev inside the distance. I think minus 145 is the best line that you can get on DraftKings right now.
I'm not giving anywhere close to the same line, but my parlay leg is Alessandro Costa minus 400. I hate to just be vague, but where does Stuart Nickel win the fight? I don't know where he's better. I think he's the far inferior striker. I think he's the far inferior grappler. Costa is not somebody that you have to worry about gassing. I don't know, man. I feel like when I look at Stuart Nickel, he's lost to guys in the UFC far worse than Alessandro Costa already. Now he's got to fly all the way across the world from Australia. Costa just, to me, feels like the safest spot of the week. That's not one of your minus 1,500s, minus 2,000. So I like Alessandro Costa as my parlay leg this week.
So for my best bet of the week, I'm really liking this plus 250. It is the Renato Moicano Chris Duncan ends by submission.
Yeah.
Plus 250. I think that there's a really good shot that Chris Duncan can hurt Renato Moicano, and we've seen him lock up a few front chokes that were really nasty. And then on top of that, like we had talked about, the Manuel Torres fight is a really good example of how I think I could see Renato Moicano winning this fight as well. He obviously knows that his best opportunity to beat Chris Duncan is if he gets the fight to the mat. And if he does win, I think that he'll ultimately find that submission. So in a way, I think what we're covering both sides here. I do think the fight doesn't go to decision, and we're getting plus 250 on it. So give me that for my best bet.
Like it. Another under for me. I got the Tommy McMillan versus Manelo Zucchini under 1.5, sitting at minus 154. I feel like that Dana White Contender Series fight for McMillan against David McGoyan is really kind of keeping this line down. I truly feel like this should be closer to about minus 300, closer to 70%. And I think we're sitting here with a big edge. That's why I played it for 2.5 units. I ultimately think, again, he fought a much better guy than Manelo Zucchini and David McGoyan on the Contender Series fight. A much more durable guy, a guy who's much more dangerous as well. And when you look at Tommy's fights prior to that, he starts early, man. He gets to his grappling. Like he finishes guys early. And I think if he goes to his grappling here, it's going to be similar product. Manelo Giustini has been finished in 3 of his 4 losses, 2 of those under 1.5, and the other one still in round 2 as well. He's been out of the cage for 2.5 years. Tommy being O'Malley's boy, they scraped from the bottom, dude, to get him what I feel like is a highlight debut. And again, you got a guy who's sitting at minus 1,500, who's finished 8 of his 9 wins in round 1, and I'm only having to play minus 154 for the under 1.5. I think there's a big skill difference here, especially on the mat. I like McMillan, first round sub, and I like the under 1.5 for my best bet.
Moving on to our quick picks of the night, we start off with Dakota Hope versus Kai Kamaka III. I'm not happy about it, but I'm picking Kai here. How about yourself?
Yeah, dude, I'm on Kai Kamaka as well, and I'm gonna look into this fight a little bit more, honestly, just because it was minus 160. Now I can get in the minus 140s, and Kamaka's been here before, dude. He's got the experience. He's durable as fuck. Like, I don't know. Kamaka's aside from me. Melissa Gatto, Diana Barbosa, you touched on this one a little bit, taking Gatto as your dog. Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you, dude. I think she fights longer. I think she's faster. I think she's a better striker. It does worry me in the small cage about Barbosa finding top time, but I think at the number, it's dog or pass. I like it.
Now we're moving on to Azmat Bokayev taking on Tresean Gore. I think that Bokayev has something to prove after getting upset in his last time out against Usuri. So, yeah, I think he comes out here and really gets it done quickly.
Yeah, I'm on the Bokayev side, and I think it's probably inside the distance as well. Haley Cowan taking on Alice Pereira at 135. Massive age difference. Alice Pereira is the much better striker, but I don't know if it was debut jitters or what last time. But, dude, I don't know. She's getting walked down. She's giving up some physicality. I feel like if Haley Cowan gets on top, shit might get interesting. Subs plus 800. I don't know. I'm gonna take Haley Cowan. I'm not betting the fight, but give me Haley Cowan. Give me your sub.
I wonder what this line would look like if Alice's last name was Smith. I am going to pick her, but it's not with much conviction, to be fair. Lando Venata versus Darius Flowers. We're rolling back the clock with a few of these fights. I like my boy Lando, though, and that's because he has been able to fight at a UFC caliber before in his life, where I feel like Darius Flowers has not. So give me Lando here.
I took a peek online just because Lando's been out for so long, but he's been training. He looks ready. Been asking for a fight, and I think Darius is just an absolute gasser. So if Darius doesn't finish him early, I think Lando subs him down the stretch. Alessandro Costa and Stuart Nickel. Costa parlay piece of the week. I think he could probably finish him. I don't know where Stuart Nickel has any advantages in this fight.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing to add there. I'll pick Alessandro Costa as well. Thomas Peterson versus Guillermo Pat. I like Thomas Peterson. I think he's a little bit undersized for his style, his fight style. It seems to me like he's going to have a really clean fight for him to win. And I think that he can do it. So he's going to be my pick, but I think it's going to be super tight. It's not going to be a clean win by any means, but I think that he has all the tools to win this fight.
Yeah, especially down the stretch, he has the style that I think could cause Pat trouble. Pat wants a clean fight. He wants his space, and he's stuck in the apex with a guy who wants to close that distance. And if he's there down the stretch, I don't know, dude. Yeah, I'll take Thomas Peterson. Line's starting to move his way as well. Mm-hmm. Open up the main card with my fight of the night, Robert Ruchala, Jose Delano. I think this fight like such a high pace from the get-go. If Ruchala is able to get this fight down, the dog money's going to look good, but I'm not convinced he does so, and I like Delano on the feet here. He looks like a really good prospect to me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Robert coming out of KSW. I think that Delano, just to show me in his last couple fights that he's a force to be reckoned with. So I'm with you. Give me Delano. Tommy McMillan versus Manolo Zacchini. Tough to know what anybody's going to look like with 2 years off, but Tommy McMillan, overpriced for my liking for sure, considering he gets just he has to wear a lot of damage for him to really start getting his offense off. But I do think that this is a fight where the UFC has, found him a matchup that he should win. But the price is out of hand. Tommy McMillan's the pick, though.
Yeah, Tommy McMillan, the under 1.5 was my best bet there. Rafeal Estevam, Ethyn Ewing. I'm on the Ethyn Ewing side just because I can't get past, Rafeal potentially slowing down. And if he doesn't finish the fight, I think Ewing's volume and pace and pressure should be there. I like Ethyn Ewing, round 3 decision, somewhere around that.
Yeah, I'm also on the Ethyn Ewing side. I'm excited to see what he looks like off of a full camp, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions with Rafeal Estevam coming up at weight class. If he could continue the wrestling prowess that he had at 125 pounds, but have the cardio to do it over 15 minutes, this could be a really long night for Ethyn Ewing. So that's why I'm not actually making a bet on it. But Ethyn Ewing, I do think, is going to have a couple of moments where he tags Estevam, especially late. So I'm hoping he wins rounds 2 and 3. Abdul Rahman Yakyaev versus Brendanson Ribeiro. I'm on the Yakyaev side. The under a half was plus 130. I was looking at it. I don't know if I'm actually going to get there, but I think he covers that with like 6 or 7 of his 8 wins. So I don't know. You might consider it. I think he gets it done. I think I'm excited to see what he does for the rest of his career in the UFC.
I think he's a top 5 prospect the UFC has right now. There's something about this guy that he looks good to me, dude. And the UFC, I think the same thing. They're giving him what was the dude prior to this, Rafeal Sakiera, and now Brendanson Ribeiro. It's like that's what they do to their nice prospects. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds. I parlay the under 1.5 with Alessandro Costa. It's got some juice on it, but I'm super comfortable with that play this week. Co-main, Verna, Tabitha Ricci. I've talked about this fight twice. Tabitha Ricci, I really like her in the spot.
Yeah, I'm on the Tabitha Ricci side as well. Career, the placement on the card, I think the UFC wants her to win. And then the main event, Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan. I'm still picking Chris Duncan despite the line movement later on in the week. I think he's just going to be bigger, going to be able to get off more damage over the course of like 3 to 5 rounds that I think this goes. And then I'm really hoping that he locks up a submission whenever he's doing that. So give me Chris Duncan.
Dude, I mean, honestly, at plus 250 for fight ins by sub, that might be the best bet of the whole fight. I think the pass there for both guys. And if Renato is going to come out here and win, he's going to come out here and probably sub Chris early. So I think you're getting a better price tag on Moicano. I think you're getting the price tag on Chris's guillotine on his Darce after he hurts him. That's a really good play for this fight. I'm on the Chris Duncan side as well. I don't see Moicano doing enough damage if he doesn't sub him, and I see gritty old Chris still being there in rounds 2 and 3 and putting it on him. So yeah, Chris Duncan side for me as well. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us, looking to stay in the green again this week. Make sure you like and subscribe, and as always, see you guys next week.
Peace.